You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hey, all you weirdos, Jim here, and we're going to be talking about the Amazing Spider-Man number 61, the new issue by Joe Kelly, coming off of the way too long run of Zeb Wells. 60 issues, and most people were just waiting for him to leave the book when it was finally announced that he would be leaving and that Joe Kelly would be starting off this 8 Deaths of Spider-Man story. With this issue, people got excited. Now, I got excited because anybody but Zeb Wells seems like a great idea. The problem is that I really didn't like Joe Kelly's nonstop Spider-Man or his Savage Spider-Man, and recently his Deadpool Wolverine WW3 book I thought was unreadable. So I was kind of like, cautiously optimistic going into this. But again, I just wanted something new. And now here we get it. And it's not good. It's not good at all. I think that, again, the dialogue is so cringe. It is almost to the point of unreadable at points. But there's also some weird decisions that happen in this book where I thought maybe you should change a couple things up after the Zeb Wells run. I'm not talking about Paul. Paul is not in this issue. That's fine. I wish that Paul was in the issue to then get hit by a bus, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But just some of the decisions of this whole issue and what's going to seemingly happen in this 8 Deaths of Spider-Man just seem a little off, but we'll get into the issue itself and then we'll talk about all that. It is, again, The Amazing Spider-Man, number 61, The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, Part 1, Inevitable Attraction, written by Joe Kelly, pencils by Ed McGuinness, inks by Mark Farmer, colors by Maceo Menez, dream sequence art, and I'm doing air quotes here because it's more of exposition flashback type of deal or like storytelling, but it's what it is. Nico Henrikon. It's pretty cool. It's a drastic change from Ed McGuinness, but it's supposed to be. VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. So we start off in this with a cold open. You end up where this guy, Kevin, is falling to his death while Spider-Man's trying to save him while also fighting a villain named Burnout. Now, this is taking place, way up in the New York City skyline. I'm guessing that Kevin might be a window washer. It seemed unclear to me. In the meantime, while they're all falling and Spidey's swinging, he's saving Kevin with webs and then talking trash to Burnout, not really fighting him much, more talking trash about his name. You end up having Spider-Man lose his satchel, which ends up making him lose some money, his phone, LP record. He's on Wax there by Rick Jones, and a bunch of other things. Now he's yelling for Kevin to grab all that stuff. This poor guy is probably crapping his pants, while again, Spidey is talking trash to this Burnout. Now, the dialogue, this is something that I've had issues with Joe Kelly, especially in the nonstop Spider-Man, and then people would always yell at me. I'd say, it's too quippy. And then I'd get the, rebuttal of, well, Spider-Man's always quippy. That's classic. It's just always too much. He always seems, and he's a great Deadpool writer, and I think that he writes Spider-Man a little bit too much skewed towards the Deadpool-esque deal, even has a Deadpool pin or patch on his satchel. But I understand it. I understand the idea of being quippy. It's just the idea of it being so bad. And the idea that Joe Kelly seems to be writing dialogue in the hey fellow kids vein, where he's trying to talk young, saying things that make no sense, then mixing it in with other things that only an old person would say, like the term dipstick. And then all of it is a goulash of nonsense. It ends up giving me a headache. Spider-Man at the very beginning says that this thinking makes the inside of his skull itch. It's making mine ache reading it. And so as you go, it's just every second, every word bubble pretty much pulls me out with me just like, what? Why is he talking? You're Joe Kelly, stop. Even at one point, right at the beginning, you end up where this Burnout guy, I'm Burnout. And he's flying around on these discs. He's okay. He's just what it is. It's a cold open. But you have Spidey say, like, we got to come up with a new name for him. I don't know why. Burnout, kind of a crazy name, but we got to come out. What do you think, Kev? And Kevin goes, Sparky? And then Spider-Man, I like the linkage, but that's a name for puppies, Kev. Blue Sky it. Blue Sky it. If you know what blue, that doesn't make sense. I mean, more what you would do is Google it, look it up. I guess maybe saying, put it out there on Blue Sky, see what people think. Like, it's not good. And it just gets worse and worse. But when I said about decisions for the book and why I'm a little perplexed by some of the things, while this is going on, you see him losing things. You see him, losing his wallet, money, all this stuff as they're zipping through the air. You then go and have little vignettes, him and his new girlfriend, Shay. They're at a old school record shop and they're talking to Spidey. Oh man, I have you seen my phone? And then you end up with Randy and he's talking about not knowing where his wallet is. Then you end up where Aunt May is giving Peter some money so that she can pay, the rent for Feast. And he gets it, but says, I have to find my keys. But in that, it's Sad Sack Peter. It's Sad Sack Peter. Again, all these things, the quipping and the Sad Sack deal, that might be classic. But after Zebwell's run, like, come on, let's let Peter have a little bit. I mean, we're going to be doing the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, so it's going to get pretty dark. So maybe let him have some fun or do something, but it feels just off. It feels off from everything that we got out of to go and like, oh my God, I need the freshness. And we get to this and it's just like, it's just weird. So while this is good, you have this cold open that lasts way too long too. And again, it's Spider-Man yelling different names. Hey there, I'm going to call you Charmageddon, but I think that's a Pokemon. I'm like, come on now. Come on. And then finally, he ends up punching this burnout guy. He dissipates into a bunch of birds. And then Spider-Man doesn't stop. He just keeps going, bird out. Oh my God, we should call him this. I thought we might get a Flock of Seagulls reference just to be thrown in there. But all of a sudden, Doom shows up. This Kevin craps his pants again, second time at least. And Doom shows up and says, your services are required. Now, I know that this whole story revolves around Doom. It revolves around this covenant that we'll find out about and the idea of all these demons coming in, and Spider-Man's going to have to pretty much get like a power of the Sorcerer Supreme and fight off these demons. And okay, that's what it is. It seems kind of cool. People like Doom. But I don't know, going into this after that long run again, and you go, it just feels off that we just can't have a Spider-Man story. And Doom showing up, it's big, but it feels almost like, the type of thing where Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, showed up in Zebwell's run just so she would die. It feels like, okay, we have Doom. He's the new Sorcerer Supreme. We'll get to that eventually with himself, but we have to, pump it up. So let's put in Amazing Spider-Man. Maybe just that right to this might have been a little too much, though. Again, the art looks great. Doom looks great, but it plays off weird because when it's explained what this is all about, it's going to end up being Doom needing Spidey to fight off these demons that are coming to get this covenant. Now, this is a thing that Dr. Strange, Stephen Strange, would normally do and has done. And if he was still Sorcerer Supreme, he would do it. Doom seems like he's got other things to do. Little lazy. I don't know. He seems like a punk as he says, I got to do other things. I want you to do it. At first, Peter says he's not going to do it. And then Doom just leaves. It's very weird. And then after that, you have Peter again go do a Sad Sack Peter deal. He's talking to Aunt May. Oh, I didn't have all the money. Some of the money that she gave him got lost in that battle. So he's like, I got a street pretzel. Okay. So then Randy needs this. Shay comes, this record album that he had, this Rick Jones record album, kind of funny. It actually reminds me of that phony What If cover. If Rick James became the Hulk, kind of funny deal. He ends up where he gives it to Shay. It's all cracked up and whatever. He also got his camera, ruined. Kev couldn't come through with that. But all in all, he ends up like, I don't like this talk. They're talking about how he has to grow up, and he disappears. He goes into the bathroom and he's just going to leave. He's just going to get on the Spidey suit and leave. Again, it feels weird, though. Shay has a pretty funny line because they end up, oh, that's what Peter does. When he gets upset, he goes to the bathroom. Little do they know he becomes Spider-Man. But in the meantime, Randy says, yeah, the last time I asked him for a rent check, he went to the bathroom for 2 weeks. And then Shay says, I thought he had an actual GI problem. Then I realized he's just full of crap. That's a funny line, but she seems very willing to look past this. I don't mind Shay. We don't have enough of her for me to really have a huge opinion. Obviously, people want Peter to be with MJ and Paul, nonsense. But Shay, she's okay. But what happens is Peter gets on the suit. He goes off. Again, cringy dialogue. He runs into Spider-Boy. Now, when I end up talking with Matt on our podcast about Spider-Boy or even some videos, a lot of people always fight back about Spider-Boy. And what I always would say to them, don't worry about Spider-Boy. He'll never show up in Amazing Spider-Man. It's just the Dan Slott stuff. He just has his own little pocket thing here. You won't. Oh, and here he is. He's only there for a second. He actually has one of the better lines of the whole issue. And Spider-Man says, I'm, having some problems. I'm feeling down. And Bailey, Spider-Boy, says, well, you know what? I find ice cream solves pretty much everything. It makes everything better, except maybe diabetes. It's just a quick quip. That's funny. And then there's an explosion and Peter goes off. So what happens is Spider-Man now runs into a demon who has come here to fight the Earth's champion to get the Covenant. That's when Doom comes back and explains to Peter. And it's such a weird play of Spider-Man said, hey, I'm not involved. And Doom's like, okay, he leaves. Now he comes back, and it does play a little like some of the things are very unclear. Like it does play off the idea of, well, you have to do it because this demon, it's going to destroy the Earth, or maybe it's just going to fight you and you're going to die. You need this power. And it is granted by Dr. Doom after he tells him that this whole play, this Crimson Casket of Sidorak, this whole thing involved with the Sorcerer Supreme, and especially Stephen Strange, it needs to be protected. These demons then come and attack. But when it does happen, these things are really, really crazy strong. They end up really being able to just rip through and, in fact, have killed Dr. Strange a bunch of times. But he uses the reeds of Ragadur, and that lets you come back to life. So basically, the whole story is going to revolve around what seems to be Spider-Man fighting demons that show up, demon of the week, demon of the month, whatever of the issue. They come in. He'll be able to defeat him as he dies. We'll see a crazy death. And then after he dies, he'll be able to use one of these reeds, and then he'll come back to fight the next demon. We kind of saw that if you're a DC Comics fan. We saw that with Teenie Howard's Catwoman. It wasn't good. Now, I'm not saying that Teenie Howard is the epitome of a great writer, so that might be the fact. But it just kind of feels very forced setup to get what you're going to get. And again, I don't know that the thing that I need, even if it wasn't after Zebwell's run, just at any point, I don't think I ever sat there and thought, I really want to see Spider-Man die horrifically and then come back and see body horror, kind of. Ed McGuinness draws things. I don't think that this is anything people would, fight back against. It's very cartoony. And so it's not as body horror as maybe it could be. I'm actually glad because I don't really need to see that. But what ends up happening then is you get a new costume. There's a lot of things thrown in here that, okay, this will be something that'll be online. We'll blue sky it. You end up wearing Spidey's new costume. I don't love it. Has like a Beyond kind of emblem, but then kind of looks like a Sorcerer Supreme type of deal. I don't know. It even looks like it's a little bit of a variant of like the hood. But with all of this, you have Doom, give it that, and now Spidey and Joe Kelly can yell out crazy spells because it gives Peter the knowledge of that. So he yells out wicked webs of Wundagore. Like this could get really, lame very quickly. Thank God this demon actually just says, like, we don't all call out our spells. Like, that's not really a thing. And then they just end up fighting. And again, the art's great, but the fight is just, I don't know, it's kind of lame. You end up having Spider-Man realize, oh, there's a black hole in this guy's mouth. He's going to fight against the black hole, but as he does, he ends up getting ripped apart. And there's a play of, it takes for us, a couple minutes, but it's hours, like 96 some hours that it takes because of the distortion of time around a black hole as Spider-Man's being ripped apart. Again, maybe not something that I really thought that I needed or wanted. And Spidey dies. He ends up in death, and death is Phil Coulson. This might be the neatest part of the issue. Phil Coulson, after the Infinity Watch, he ends up being Death. And he has his little notebook. He has a little sickle pen that he's writing. And it's kind of a funny little play here where he realizes that it's Spider-Man that he is doing the paperwork for because he's dead. And so, I didn't look at your real name. It's fine, whatever. And then he sees, you have the reeds. You're going to go back. Well, I'll see you later. Stay strong, Spider-Man. But you get a little Phil Coulson and find out what happened with him. Then you get Spidey just kind of resurrecting in the swamp. Again, DC a la, Solomon Grundy. I wonder if he's like, I'm Spider-Man born on a Tuesday. But it's supposed to be kind of body horror, but it's a little bit cartoony. But I don't need that. So when he comes to, tries to figure out what is going to happen. Oh, my God, please, somebody help me. I don't know what's going on. You do end up having Dr. Strange, Stephen Strange, show up and says, you're fine. You are in perfect health, but bad news. If you have to fight and defeat the rest of the scions of Sidorak, likely dying in the process, rebirthing 7 more times if you don't, the Earth falls. So the whole basis, again, is that he has to fight off now 7 more of these scions of Sidorak, probably dying each time in a different horrific way, and then he'll end up saving Earth. So you end on that. The art's great, the story stinks. The dialogue is atrocious. It really is hard to read without being pulled out. And again, is it a Spider-Man story? Yeah, but after a 60-issue run, maybe it would have been better to do something to start out. Maybe a couple issues, get things in order, see what's good. This is like thrown at you like a left and a right to the chops. And I did not like it. So overall, because of the art, I'll go a little bit higher. I'm actually lower now. Each time I read this, I go lower. I'm going to give it a 4.5. I'm sure some people will still say that it's a little high, though. Some will argue that it should be big. That's the way things go. But when we talk about it, we don't have to argue. Then I don't have to argue, and everybody has a great week. But that's it. I hope everybody enjoyed the review. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below, so let me know. And I will talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.